The mansion was big, very big, but that morning it felt cold and empty. Sunlight came through the tall glass windows, touching the shiny floors. Everything looked perfect. The furniture was expensive. The walls were clean. The house had everything money could buy. But something was missing. Inside one of the rooms, 6 little girls sat quietly. No laughter, no smiles, just silence. Their father stood near the window. He was a very rich man, a millionaire. People outside this house thought he had the perfect life. Big business, big money, big name. But inside this house, he was tired, very tired. In just 6 months, he had fired 101 nannies. 101. Some left crying. Some left angry. Some did not even finish one day. No one lasted. And now, once again, another nanny was packing her bags. She walked fast, shaking her head. "I can't do this anymore," she said quietly. The father did not stop her. He did not even look at her. He only said one cold sentence. "Close the door on your way out." The door closed. Silence returned. The 6 girls did not cry anymore. They had learned not to. They had learned that people always leave. The father rubbed his face with his hands. His eyes were red, not from tears, but from anger and stress. He had tried everything. Best schools, best toys, best nannies from the best agencies. Nothing worked. The girls were broken, and he did not know how to fix them. At that moment, in the corner of the big hallway, a woman quietly cleaned the floor. She was a black maid. She wore a simple uniform. Her shoes were old. Her head was down. She moved slowly, carefully, like she did not want to be seen. No one noticed her. No one ever did. She had been working in that house for months. Cleaning, washing, sweeping, listening, always listening. She heard the crying at night. She heard the shouting in the day. She heard the silence that screamed louder than noise. But she never spoke. Until that day, something changed. One of the girls stood up. The youngest one. She walked slowly past her sisters, past the big chairs, past the expensive table, and stopped near the maid. The girl looked at her. The maid looked back. For a few seconds, time stopped. The girl whispered, "Why does everyone leave us?" The maid froze. No nanny had ever heard that question. The maid did not answer right away. She put down her mop. She bent slightly. She looked into the little girl's eyes and said softly, "Some people leave because they don't understand pain." The girl's lips started shaking. Behind them, the father watched from far away. He did not hear the words, but he saw something strange. For the first time in months, one of his daughters was calm. Not angry, not crying, just calm. The father felt uncomfortable. Who was this woman? She was not hired to talk. She was not hired to care. She was only a maid. Later that evening, the father sat alone in his office. The walls were full of awards, gold frames, success stories, but none of them mattered. He pressed a button on his desk. The security cameras turned on. He watched different rooms of the house. Then he saw it. In the playroom, the black maid was sitting on the floor. The 6 girls were around her. She was not teaching them. She was not correcting them. She was just listening. One girl spoke, then another, then another. The maid said nothing. She only nodded. The father's heart started beating fast. Anger rose inside him. How dare she, he thought. Everyone else failed. Everyone else quit. And now this woman thought she could do what 101 nannies could not? He stood up. "This will end now," he said to himself. He turned off the screen. He did not know one thing. This was not the beginning of trouble. This was the beginning of something impossible. Because the woman he ignored, the woman he barely noticed, was about to change everything. And this house, this broken house, would never be the same again. And one quiet woman succeed without trying? He didn't know it yet. But the real problem was not the children. It was the pain no one wanted to face. And that pain was about to come to the surface. Her name was not written on any door. No one ever called her by name. In that house, people only called her the maid. She arrived before sunrise every day. She left after the house fell asleep. She cleaned floors that were already clean. She wiped tables no one used. She fixed messes she did not create. And she listened. She listened more than anyone else in that house. The black maid had learned how to become invisible a long time ago. When people do not see you, they also do not stop you from observing. She saw everything. She saw the father walk past his daughters without looking at them. She saw the girls flinch when voices got loud. She saw tears wiped away quickly, like they were something to be ashamed of. She knew this house did not suffer from lack of money. It suffered from lack of love. The maid had known pain before. Years ago, she had lost someone precious. A child. A small life she never got to see grow. That loss changed her forever. It taught her one thing. Pain does not scream at first. It becomes quiet. And quiet pain is the most dangerous. That is why she noticed the girls. Other people saw bad behavior. She saw broken hearts. Other nannies tried to fix the girls. She knew you do not fix people. You listen to them. She never crossed her limits. She never entered their rooms. She never touched their toys. Until the day the youngest girl spoke to her. That question stayed in her heart. Why does everyone leave us? The maid carried that question with her all day. That night, she stood in the kitchen, washing dishes slowly. The house was quiet again. Then she heard small footsteps. One girl, then two, then all six. They stood at the door, unsure. The maid did not invite them in. She did not push them away. She simply kept washing. Slowly, they sat on the floor. Minutes passed. Then one girl spoke. "We scare them," she said. Another whispered, "They don't want us." The maid turned off the water. She dried her hands. She sat down with them. For the first time, an adult did not correct them. Did not tell them to behave. Did not tell them to stop talking. She said one sentence. "Tell me." That was all. The words came slowly at first, then faster, then all at once. Anger, fear, loneliness. They talked about their mother, about how she disappeared, about how no one explained anything, about how every nanny left like she did. The maid did not cry. She did not judge. She listened like someone who understood pain very well. She told them a story, not about rules, not about behavior, but about a tree. A tree grows strong, she said softly, not because it never feels storms, but because it survives them. The girls listened. That night, they slept without screaming. Upstairs, the father watched through the cameras. He saw the maid sitting on the floor with his daughters. He felt something twist inside him. Jealousy, confusion, anger. Why her? Why did his daughters open up to someone he barely noticed? The next morning, the father called the maid into the hallway. "You are here to clean," he said coldly. "Nothing more." The maid nodded. "Understand," she replied calmly. But even as she walked away, she knew something had already changed. The girls followed her with their eyes. Later that day, one girl helped her sweep. Another brought her water. Another smiled. Small things. Dangerous things. Because hope had returned. And hope is powerful. That evening, the father stood alone again. He remembered his wife's voice. He remembered the warmth that once lived in this house. He pushed the memory away. Memories hurt. But downstairs, his daughters laughed quietly for the first time in months. And the woman who made it happen? She was just a maid. At least, that's what he thought. He did not know yet that she was doing something no nanny had ever done. She was not changing behavior. She was healing pain. And that kind of change cannot be controlled. It can only grow. The change did not happen fast. It happened quietly. So quietly that the father almost missed it. For weeks, the house had felt like a battlefield. Every sound was loud. Every step felt heavy. But now, something was different. The mornings were calmer. No shouting. No broken objects. No slammed doors. The 6 girls still woke up early, but they did not rush out of their rooms with anger. They moved slowly, carefully, like they were afraid the peace might break. The father noticed it during breakfast. The table was silent, but not the painful silence he was used to. This silence felt safe. Down the hall, the black maid cleaned the windows. She worked the same way she always had. No rules, no noise, no attention. But the girls kept finding reasons to be near her. One helped her fold towels. Another followed her quietly with a book. One sat on the stairs just to watch her work. The maid did not stop them. She did not tell them to help. She let them choose. That was the difference. She never gave orders. She gave space. One afternoon, rain began to fall outside. The sky turned dark. The sound of thunder made one of the girls freeze. She dropped to the floor, covering her ears. Before fear could turn into panic, the maid sat beside her. She did not touch her. She only said, "Storms pass." The The girl breathed slowly. Upstairs, the father watched from his office window. He felt uncomfortable again. He had spent thousands trying to fix his daughters. Experts, doctors, nannies. None worked. But this woman, she did nothing special. No lessons, no rules, no training. Yet the girls were changing. They slept through the night. They spoke softer. They smiled sometimes. That scared him. Change he could not control always scared him. That evening, he reviewed the security footage again. The maid was in the kitchen, cooking something simple. Soup. Nothing expensive. The girls were around her. They talked about small things. School. Dreams. Fears. One girl asked, "Will you leave too?" The maid paused. She looked at them and said one honest line. "I am here today. Nothing more." The girls nodded. That answer was enough. The father turned off the screen. He felt anger rise in his chest. Hope was growing where he had built walls. And walls were easier to manage than hope. The next morning, he finally spoke. He stopped the maid in the hallway. "You are crossing lines," he said firmly. The maid looked at him calmly. "I am cleaning," she replied. "My house does not need emotional experiments," he snapped. The maid lowered her eyes. "I am not fixing," she said. "I am listening." The father walked away without replying. That night, the house changed again. One of the girls laughed out loud. The sound froze the father in place. He had not heard that sound in months. He closed his eyes. Memories came back. His wife laughing. His daughters playing. A life he lost while chasing success. The maid stood in the doorway, unseen. She understood something the father did not yet accept. Children do not need perfect adults. They need present ones. The next day, the father made a decision. He called his assistant. "Prepare termination papers," he said coldly. The assistant hesitated. "For the maid?" "Yes." That evening, the maid packed her bag slowly. She did not cry. She did not argue. The girls watched from the stairs. Fear returned to their eyes. One girl whispered, "It's happening again." The maid knelt in front of them. "Remember the tree," she said softly. "Storms do not last forever." She stood up and walked toward the door. Behind her, 6 hearts broke at the same time. Upstairs, the father held the termination letter in his hand. His hand shook. Something inside him was fighting. Logic told him to end it. But his heart was not so sure. He did not know it yet, but this decision would force the truth into the open. Because the impossible had already begun. And once hearts start healing, they did not go back to silence. The door was almost closed. The black maid stood at the entrance of the mansion, her small bag in her hand. The night air was cold. The lights inside the house were still bright, but warmth had already begun to leave. Behind her, the 6 girls stood on the stairs. They were silent. Too silent. The father watched from the top floor. The termination letter was still in his hand. His chest felt tight, but his face stayed hard. "This is for the best," he told himself. Then something unexpected happened. The oldest daughter stepped forward. She was shaking, but her voice was strong. "Stop." The word echoed through the big house. The father froze. No nanny had ever heard that word from his daughters, and no one had ever said it to him. The maid turned slowly. The father looked down the stairs. All 6 girls were standing together. For the first time, they were not hiding behind each other. They were united. "You can't make her leave," the second daughter said. The father felt anger rise. "This does not concern you," he replied coldly. "Yes, it does," another daughter said. "Everything does." The father walked down the stairs slowly. Every step felt heavy. "You are children," he said. "You don't understand." The youngest girl spoke next. Her voice was soft. "We understand more than you think." Silence filled the room. The maid lowered her head, ready to leave. She did not want to cause more trouble. But the girls stepped in front of her. She listened, one said. "She stayed," another added. "She didn't try to change us," the third whispered. "She cared," said the fourth. The father's hands clenched into fists. "So you think she fixed everything?" he asked sharply. "No," the oldest daughter replied. "She made us feel safe." Those words hit harder than any scream. Safe. The father had never heard that word connected to his home. "You had everything," he said, his voice rising. "Money, rooms, toys, schools." One daughter looked straight into his eyes. "We needed you." The words cracked something inside him. Memories rushed back. Late nights at work. Missed birthdays. Short answers. Closed doors. The girls were crying now. Not screaming. Not breaking things. Just crying. The maid finally spoke. Sir, she said gently, they are not angry children. They are grieving. The father turned to her. You were hired to clean, he snapped. Not to speak. I know, she said calmly. But sometimes silence hurts more. That was the moment. The father's strength broke. He dropped the letter. It fell to the floor like a useless piece of paper. He sat down on the stairs, covering his face. I didn't know how, he whispered. The girls froze. They had never seen him like this. I thought if I controlled everything, the pain would go away, he said. But it didn't. The maid watched quietly. Healing cannot be forced. The father looked up at his daughters. I was scared, he admitted. Scared to feel what you feel. The youngest girl walked toward him. She placed her hand on his arm. We were scared too. The father closed his eyes. For the first time in months, he allowed himself to cry. The house felt different. Like something heavy had finally been lifted. The maid took a step back. This is where I go, she said softly. The father looked at her. No, he said quickly. Please stay. The girls looked at her with hope. The maid paused. I can stay, she said. But only if I am respected. The father nodded. I promise. But just as peace seemed to arrive, a phone rang. The father answered. His face changed. Bad news. Serious news. A problem that could destroy everything. He looked at the maid, at his daughters, and realized something terrifying. He had just begun to heal one wound. But another storm was already coming. The phone call changed everything. The father stood still, holding the phone in his hand. His face had lost all color. The house was quiet again, but this time the silence was heavy with fear. He slowly turned toward his daughters. They were watching him closely. What happened? The oldest girl asked. The father did not answer right away. He walked back into his office and closed the door. That door had always meant one thing. Distance. The girls looked at each other. The hope they had just found began to shake. Downstairs, the black maid stood quietly near the window. She could feel it. Storms always announce themselves. Minutes passed. Then the father came out. I have to leave, he said. Now. The girls panicked. Are you coming back? One asked. The father hesitated. I don't know, he replied honestly. That hurt more than a lie. A business deal was falling apart. A partner had betrayed him. Millions were at risk. Everything he had built was shaking. This was the world he understood. This was the world that had taught him to survive. I need order, he said sharply. I can't deal with emotions right now. The words felt familiar. Too familiar. The maid watched his shoulders tighten. She had seen this before. In many people, in many places. Pain returning to its cage. The father turned to her. You should leave tonight, he said. Things are going to get messy. The girls froze. Fear rushed back into their eyes. The maid looked at the father calmly. Messy does not scare me, she said. Abandonment does. The word hit hard. The father flinched. You don't understand the pressure I am under, he replied. I do, she said quietly. I have lived without safety. The girls moved closer to her. That was when the father lost his temper. This is not your home, he shouted. The girls cried out. The words echoed through the house. The maid did not raise her voice. No, she said. But they are. The father stared at her. Something inside him snapped. Enough, he said. I built this house. I pay for everything. I decide who stays. The maid nodded. You can decide who stays, she said. But you cannot decide who they trust. The father opened his mouth to argue. Then one of the girls collapsed on the floor. Panic exploded. The father rushed forward. Call a doctor, he shouted. The maid knelt beside the girl calmly. She checked her breathing. She held her hand. She fainted, the maid said. Fear does that. The father looked around. All 6 girls were shaking. This was the cost. This was what control had built. The father felt weak. For the first time in his life, money could not fix this moment. The maid looked up at him. You are losing them, she said softly. Not because you are bad, but because you are afraid. The words broke through his anger. Afraid. Yes. Afraid of failing. Afraid of pain. Afraid of becoming small. The father knelt on the floor. He looked at his daughters. I don't know how to be what you need, he admitted. The oldest girl wiped her tears. Stay, she said. That's all. The father closed his eyes. The business call buzzed again on his phone. Two worlds pulling him apart. The life he built. The family he almost lost. He made a choice. He turned off the phone. He placed it on the table. The sound was loud. Final. I'm not going anywhere, he said. The girls stared at him. You're choosing us? One whispered. Yes, he replied. The maid stood slowly. This is not the end of your work, she said. It is the beginning. The father nodded. Outside, the storm that had been building finally broke. Rain hit the windows hard. But inside the house, something stronger stood firm. Trust. Still fragile. Still new. But alive. The father looked at the maid. I don't know how to thank you, he said. She smiled gently. You already did, she replied. You listened. But none of them knew. The final test was still coming. And it would decide everything. The rain stopped before sunrise. Soft light entered the mansion for the first time in a long while. The house still stood tall and expensive, but now it felt different. It felt alive. The father sat at the breakfast table with his 6 daughters. No phone, no laptop, no rusing, just him. The girls watched him closely, like they were afraid this moment might disappear. He poured juice for the youngest daughter. She smiled. It was a small moment, but small moments change everything. Across the room, the black maid prepared breakfast quietly. She did not sit at the table. She did not expect praise. She worked the way she always had, with care. The father watched her. He saw something he had ignored for too long. Strength without noise. Later that day, the father called the girls into the living room. They sat together on the couch. I need to say something, he began. The girls tensed. I failed you, he said honestly. I thought money could replace presence. I was wrong. The room was silent. But I want to learn, he continued. If you allow me. The oldest daughter spoke first. Stay, she said. That's how you learn. The father nodded. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. The father called a meeting. Not with investors. With the staff. He stood in front of them, nervous. This house is changing, he said. Respect is not a job title. It is a responsibility. Then he turned to the maid. For the first time, he said, I want to know your name. She told him. The girl smiled. Names matter. From that day on, things slowly changed. The girls returned to school without fear. The house filled with voices again. Laughter returned, not loud, but real. The maid did not become a nanny. She became something more important. A guide, not hired to raise the children, but trusted to protect their hearts. One evening, the father found the girls planting a small tree in the garden. What is this for? He asked. The youngest girl replied, It's for storms. The father understood. Months passed. The mansion was no longer known for silence. It became known for healing. The father still worked hard, but he came home. He listened. He stayed. One night, he stood alone in his office again. He opened an old file. Nanny records. 101 names. 101 failures. He closed the file. Then he looked at the maid through the open door, laughing softly with his daughters. She had no file, no contract, no title, yet she did the impossible. She stayed. The father walked over to her. I once believed strength meant control, he said. Now I know strength means care. She nodded. Pain listens when love speaks, she replied. The girls gathered around them. The house felt full. Years later, the girls would grow strong. They would remember not the money, but the woman who saw them, and the father who finally chose them. The narrator's final words echo softly. 101 nannies were trained to manage children. One black woman understood hearts. And that changed everything. The end.